We're still going to need oil and gas for a while. But guess what? No, we do.
Because I don't want to drive the oil prices up to $100 or $150 a barrel, which could happen very easily. It's a very fragile market.
In recent months, Namibia made a significant oil discovery.
What he's saying is he is going to destroy the oil industry.
It's clear that oil is at the heart of global politics and economics, but why does it matter so much? Why does this black liquid have such a grip on the world? Let's start with, what is oil? Natural liquid formed deep underground from ancient marine life like plankton and algae that were buried and transformed over millions of years by heat and pressure. This process creates hydrocarbons, the essential compounds found in oil. Extracted from underground reservoirs, crude oil is then refined into products that power the modern world. The refining process involves heating oil at different temperatures to ultimately derive different compounds. Gasoline forms at 40 degrees Celsius to 205 degrees Celsius. Kerosene and jet fuel form at 150 to 275 degrees Celsius. Diesel is refined at 200 degrees Celsius to 350 degrees Celsius. And heavier products like lubricants and asphalts are created above 350 degrees Celsius. This versatility is what makes oil so essential, but how did oil become the bedrock of global progress? The early days. Edwin Drake and the birth of oil. Oil's journey to global prominence began with a man named Edwin Drake in 1859. Though he lacked formal education, Drake was hired by the Seneca Oil Company to drill for oil in Titusville, Pennsylvania. After months of setbacks, numerous technical difficulties, almost financially collapsing, Drake succeeded. The well began producing 10 to 20 barrels a day, which was the birth of the modern oil industry. But before we carry on, I want to emphasize what the barrel is real quick, because that is the unit used worldwide for oil. A barrel of oil, known as a BBL, different than the BBL we might know today, is a standard unit of measure used in the oil industry, equivalent to 42 US gallons, or about 159 liters. The barrel remains the primary unit for pricing and trading crude oil globally, though modern oil is transported via pipelines, ships, and tankers rather than barrels. Once word got out about Edwin Drake's success, people flooded into Pennsylvania. Development of pipelines and railways became standard procedure. However, oil's full potential wasn't actualized until John D. Rockefeller entered the scene. In 1870, Rockefeller founded Standard Oil and built a monopoly that would control 90% of the US oil market by the late 1800s. He saw that controlling every aspect of the oil supply chain, drilling, refining, and distribution, was the key to building an empire. His company expanded globally, exporting oil to Europe and Asia, turning oil from an American commodity to a global necessity. Oil's role in the world wars. As oil began powering cars and industrial machinery, its importance skyrocketed, but the world wars highlighted how vital it really was. Oil fueled tanks, aircraft, and naval fleets, making it the lifeblood of modern warfare. In World War II, oil's strategic significance came into sharp focus. Adolf Hitler's invasion of the Soviet Union was driven in part by the need to secure the Baku oil fields in the Caucasus to power the Nazi war machine. Meanwhile, the Allies' control over Middle Eastern oil fields proved decisive in their victory. The Middle East, oil's new epicenter. While oil production began in the United States, the Middle East would become its heartbeat. In 1908, British explorers struck oil in Persia, modern-day Iran. Companies like Royal Dutch Shell and British Petroleum, also known as BP, tapped into vast Middle Eastern oil reserves. By the mid-20th century, the Middle East, once isolated desert kingdoms, had become the center of global energy. The region's oil wealth transformed nations like Saudi Arabia, which sits on the world's largest oil reserves. The discovery of oil in Dammam in 1938 catapulted Saudi Arabia into the forefront of global oil production. Saudi Aramco, the state-owned oil company, continues to be the most profitable company, period, in the whole world over the past few years. In 1960, oil-producing nations like Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, and Iraq formed OPEC, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, to take control of their resources and set their own terms in a market previously dominated by Western companies. This culminated in the 1973 oil crisis, when OPEC imposed an embargo on nations supporting Israel during the Yom Kippur War. The embargo sent oil prices soaring and plunged Western economies into chaos, exposing just how dependent the world had become on Middle Eastern oil. Oil and geopolitics. Pipelines, Crimea, and control. If you haven't figured it out yet, oil remains central to a lot of global controversy today. From pipelines to reserves, it's all becoming front and center, especially in a big election year in the United States. Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022 is not just about territorial ambition, but also control over the oil and gas-rich Crimea region. Crimea and the Black Sea Basin are believed to hold significant untapped energy reserves. By securing these resources, Vladimir Putin aims to strengthen Russia's hold over Europe's energy supply. The Nord Stream pipeline transports natural gas from Russia to Germany, making Europe heavily dependent on Russian energy. This has given Putin enormous geopolitical leverage. Similarly, the US debate over the Keystone XL pipeline, which would have transported Canadian oil to US refineries, reflects the tension between economic interests and environmental concerns. Donald Trump supported the pipeline for job creation and energy independence, while Kamala Harris and President Biden opposed it due to environmental risks, leading to its cancellation in 2021. Fracking, offshore drilling, and climate change. Technological advancements such as fracking and offshore drilling have allowed oil companies to tap into reserves that might not have been accessible before, but it comes with certain environmental concerns. Fracking involves injecting high-pressure water, chemicals, and sand into rock formations to release oil and gas. This method has boosted U.S. oil production, but it has raised concerns about water contamination, air pollution, and earthquakes. Offshore drilling involves extracting oil from beneath the ocean floor, often miles off the coast. While offshore rigs provide access to massive oil fields, they also pose risks like oil spills. Both methods have contributed to expanding fossil fuel production, but also raises the conversation about how does this affect the environment. Critics argue that most of the new technologies are very dependent on fossil fuels when ultimately we should be pivoting to more clean and efficient energy, but it's just not that cost effective. Gas prices, how they're set and why they fluctuate. At the refinery, oil is processed into products like gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel. The refined gasoline is then distributed to retailers and gas stations where it's sold to consumers. But how are gas prices set? The largest factor is the price of crude oil, which fluctuates based on supply and demand globally. Refining costs, distribution costs, and taxes also contribute to the price. In the United States, gas prices have fluctuated massively in the past 50 years. 36 cents per gallon. Obviously not adjusted for inflation, but still crazy in the 1970s. Since then, we've obviously seen much higher peaks into the sixes and sevens of dollars per gallon during COVID and the Biden administration. With economic corrections, prices typically sit between $3.50 to $4.50 in 2024 in the United States. Globally, prices vary though. In Venezuela, due to government subsidies, it can be as cheap as 12 cents per gallon, versus in Norway, due to high taxes, it could be as expensive as $9 per gallon. I remember I visited Italy, we were filling up our tank, and it was about $8 per gallon where I was, and I was thinking, what is going on in all these other countries? The bigger picture, I know I've touched on a lot of topics, but oil is as expansive of a topic as you can get in the modern world. The United States, when they were peaking in oil production, they're sending most of it out anyways in exchange for oil from elsewhere, because the oil that we use is not the same oil that other countries are using. This is its whole own concept. There's two main types of oil. Brent, which comes from the North Sea and is the benchmark for oil prices usually in Europe and Asia, and West Texas Intermediate, which is used in the United States, but it's usually cheaper because it's easier to transport. I like to also look at history through a colonial lens, look at who owned who conquered who pushed who out of where. And Britain and the United States, they were trying to extract in the Middle East, and as those nations developed, obviously you're gonna have conflict, and those nations continue to develop. And that's why there's so much resentment for the West. That among many other things, but oil is just one factor. But if you really pay attention to oil, it shows you that everything in the geopolitical landscape is tied together, whether it's economics or boundaries or beliefs, all of this stuff is interconnected. And that's the beauty of any sort of historically embedded element of our current society. This topic is not cut and dry by any means, and I swear I still have so much to learn about it, but hopefully what I've offered you today is a good basis. I took a while to research for this video. It's not my traditional humorous video, but I wanted to try to get as much information into one video as I could while keeping it as simple as possible. So hopefully you learned something today, and hopefully oil is on your mind now, and when you pump that gas into your car and the number keeps going up, it's gonna start to make sense now, hopefully, ideally. Let me know if you guys like the videos with less jokes, or if you feel like it's just a yap fest and you get bored. I'm trying to find the happy medium where people can be intrigued, feel like they learned something, but also get to know my captivating personality that wasn't able to be on display that much during this video, but I'm experimenting right now, seeing what the people want. I appreciate every single one of you that takes the time to watch my videos. I put a lot of work into every single one, and this is just the beginning. This video quality is only gonna get better, so if you're not happy with what you're getting now, be patient. This has been another Enzo Elaborates Certified Hood Classic. Like the video, please, to help boost it in the algorithm. Make my hard work pay off, and please subscribe if you're watching every day anyways. In the meantime, comment an idea for the next one, and I'll see you next time.